We have been amazed at just how diverse and how interconnected these Atlantic ecosystems are. They are far more abundant, they are far more productive, and they are far more vulnerable than we ever thought before. Every time we put a camera into the deep Atlantic or we take a sample from the deep sea, we discover something new, and we mustn't forget that. That highly connected and intricately connected Atlantic Ocean is changing. Potentially the connections between ecosystems and species are being reduced. We have to understand the implications of that if we're going to have sustainable human activities in the future.
That opportunity to learn more about life in the ocean, that we may see where we are needed as young scientists.
The deep Atlantic is a precious and delicate place. It may be very large, but it's really varied. And we have to have the right science to conserve those places into the future.
Aquaculture is an effective way to produce more food from the ocean. However, to be more sustainable, aquaculture should expand beyond fish farming and include lower trophic species that have a low environmental impact. Funded by the EU's Horizon 2020 Research and Innovation Programme, Aquavitae aims to increase the production of sustainable low trophic species. These are groups of plants or animals that belong to the lower levels of the food chain, such as macroalgae, oysters, mussels, sea urchins, sea cucumbers, and abalone. Aquavitae will provide safe and healthy food for people, develop new biosensors to further improve productivity, analyse the profitability of aquaculture producers, provide advice on policy and governance, and build a community throughout the Atlantic. Aqua Vitae, unlocking the potential of sustainable aquaculture in the Atlantic Ocean.
One of the biggest problems a society faces today is that of climate change, in particular the role of the emissions of carbon dioxide from burning fossil fuels and how these gases are accumulating in the atmosphere and warming our planet. Researchers from the CSIR run the Southern Ocean Carbon and Climate Observatory, which is a South African-born science program supported by the Department of Science and Innovation in support of the Global Change Grand Challenge and the Marine and Antarctic Research Strategy.
Everybody thinks, that the trees in the Northern Hemisphere and these huge forests have a big role to play in sort of help mitigating the impacts of this CO2. The oceans actually play a much bigger role, and the Southern Ocean in particular. The Southern Ocean takes up 25% of man-made CO2 emissions that are emitted into the atmosphere. That's a quarter of all CO2 emissions put into the atmosphere the Southern Ocean is taking up, as well as 70% of the excess heat that is generated by the accumulation of those emissions in the atmosphere. So understanding the Southern Ocean, how it works, why it does such a good job of taking up this excess CO2 is really important, and what the sort of tipping points are on the ability of the Southern Ocean to keep on doing that in a climate that's changing. SOCO was sort of developed to try and look at that. We've taken advantage of our geographical positioning, so we kind of have decided to take a multidisciplinary approach to trying to understand the Southern Ocean.
Annually, researchers deploy gliders in the sub- and Arctic Ocean to measure stratification, or the vertical layering of the ocean. By using high-res ocean biogeochemical models, scientists are able to investigate physical and biogeochemical mechanisms that may explain the sensitivity of the Southern Ocean carbon cycle to climate change.
Ocean gliders are kind of a bit like drones that you see in the atmosphere all the time. They are profiling the ocean. Inside the glider, they can change their buoyancy. So the glider, which looks a bit like a plane, makes itself heavier so that it sinks, and it makes itself lighter so it rises. So the glider does these yaws, and it goes down to 1,000 meters depth. When it comes back to the surface, it has a iridium mast, which is essentially, it has a GPS on it. It tells us where it is, and it sends some data back to us. So we are able to then send some commands in return to it and say, please sample like this or sample like that. Gliders have multiple different sensors on them, which is great because it means that we can look at multiple different processes happening simultaneously together.
Learnings from the research are used to support the National Research Consortium that is developing a South African Earth Systems model with a special focus on improving climate projections in the Southern Hemisphere. Beyond the science and technology, SOCO offers young South African scientists from historically disadvantaged institutions a stimulating, challenging, and inspiring platform from where to build their skills in numerical modeling, machine learning, big data science, and analyzing complex systems in order to grow experts in this field.
Be able to ask good questions. I think that's what science is about, because knowledge is everywhere. I think that being able to distill what's a good question and what's not a good question, and when you're faced with a complex problem, where do you start and how do you think about it? So I think there's been a sort of a intellectual development about how to think about questions, and also meeting people that are very big in the field and sort of seeing how they think about things.
SOCO celebrates its 10th anniversary in 2020 and has been able to pioneer ocean robotics in the country and build an interdisciplinary approach to explain the links between carbon and climate. The program has developed several new facilities specializing in robotics, biooptics, biogeochemistry, geotraces, and CO2, and in turn have created opportunities to design and innovate in an uncharted field.
Our research niche is understanding fine-scale dynamics, and for that we needed capability that was able to make the measurements at the scales that we needed. Because we've sort of now got to the point we've achieved the goals of using it in support of our research, we're now expanding beyond the research needs to address societal needs outside the science. We have developed a new PCO2 sensor to measure CO2 in the ocean, which is probably one of the best ones available globally. That was developed here by our engineers, and we've tested it in the Southern Ocean. We are using it as part of our research. We are now starting to market it globally, and we've sold our first 2 units to an Ocean Institute in Germany. So that's an area where we've gone from, again, the value chain of going from basic research towards innovation. And that innovation is about developing our South African intellectual property, really, and using that as a platform to start local manufacturing of advanced high-tech equipment.
Thank you so much for those videos of the projects taking place within the All Atlantic. There clearly is a lot of work taking place, and it all looks really exciting. And particularly for me, as a molecular biologist and virologist, I'm really enjoying the new terminology and learning about the ocean and the ocean economy and all that's taking place there. And I suppose we can start with me when we speak about reaching general society and how we communicate to general society to create awareness for the ocean. Welcome back. I hope all of you were able to grab something to drink, a coffee, stretch your legs a little bit. We continue with the business of the day, and we get remarks by representatives from all Atlantic partners. And going first is Yona Seleti, and Yona Seleti is the Acting Deputy Director General for Research, Development and Support at the Department of Science and Innovation in South Africa. Thank you. Over to you, Yona.
Program Director, Ms. Tulire Kanyere, thank you. Allow me to acknowledge all the dignitaries present and sharing this platform with me. In short, all protocols observed. First of all, I wish to congratulate the Belém and Galway statement partners on this historic moment. 2020 is only the 3rd anniversary of the Belém statement. And here we are hosting the 3rd All-Atlantic Ocean Research Forum from shores and coastlands of South Africa. We need to applaud the partners, their scientific communities, and the Atlantic Ocean communities. Secondly, the 3rd Atlantic Ocean Research Forum is a celebration of both the Belém and Galway agreements on research on the oceans that brings together all the Atlantic communities. This alliance on marine and oceans research shows our seriousness about the sustainable use of the oceans. This Atlantic Research Forum contributes also to the realization of the Belém Statement ambition of promoting mutual benefit by linking research activities in the South Atlantic, Southern Oceans with those of the North Atlantic, and by exploring synergies with other initiatives such as the Interdisciplinary Atlantic Research Agenda, the Atlantic International Research Center, the Strategic Forum for International Science and Technological Cooperation, the European Union Health Observation Monitoring Program, Copernicus, and the Benguela Currents, and many more. The firm intent by the partners is to go beyond policy statements and pronouncement. And this will be illustrated tomorrow as we share with you the joint actions and anchor. The projects demonstrate the determination by the partners to increase the efficiencies in our ocean stewardship by optimizing the appropriate use and sharing of research infrastructures, access to and management of data and data platforms, and further deepening our scientific knowledge of marine ecosystems, the interaction between oceans and climate change, oceans and food, and oceans and energy systems. Esteemed ladies and gentlemen, Atlantic partners, there is only one ocean and it knows no borders. It is the coming together of our joint effort that we can address some of the intertwined challenges that can be addressed through a focus on this resource. We have a responsibility to ensure that the ocean is kept safe for everyone's benefit. What happens in the South Atlantic Ocean affects what is happening in the Indian or Atlantic Oceans and vice versa. Sustainable Development Goal 14 commits us to conserving the oceans and seas and our marine resources and using them sustainably. Our joint efforts are critical for this to succeed. Dr. Mjwaka has already spoken on the decade of the ocean science for sustainable development to support the efforts to reverse the cycle. So I will pass that topic. Investment in the science and innovation is integral to the achievement of South Africa's growth and development objectives. As stated in our National Development Plan, it is key to accelerating sustainable and inclusive economic growth. Ocean and polar research is expensive, and governments are faced with a number of competing social mandates. It is now very difficult for nations to support science for the sake of science. The current COVID-19 pandemic has made society look to science to address social challenges. The All-Atlantic Partnership is squarely based on this idea, and it's bearing fruit. To cement our commitment to the partnership, South Africa is developing a compendium of South African marine research in the Atlantic Ocean, a document that will primarily highlight the activities of the South African marine research community from universities, government departments, national research facilities, science councils, and non-governmental organizations that are involved in the Atlantic Ocean activities. This document aims to enable potential local and international partners to identify possible South African partners, agencies for collaborative activities. Proposed anchor joint activities will be announced tomorrow, and this document will surely assist in ensuring that cooperation leading to the achievements of the goals. In the context of the Atlantic Ocean research, there is an opportunity as well for innovation systems to be expanded. We have already talked about innovation for inclusive social development. And in this case, there's already been talk from Canada around the integration of indigenous knowledge as part of the transdisciplinarity. I want to pause here that there is actually another dimension, which is polyepistemic, to go beyond the production of knowledge within the same epistemes. And indigenous knowledge would add to that. And we in South Africa are very proud of our youth ambassadors who took the initiative even to use that in the public awareness. Congratulations to them. Socioeconomic recovery from COVID-19 has seen an increased focus on the transition to the green economy and the digital agenda. In the work that we have just seen around SOCO, those agendas of the digital economy and also the green economy and the aspects of the fourth industrial revolution in terms of data science are already a part of our work, which we are promoting. I guess when my boss comes through, I need to go. So just a last comment. Finally, the program director, this pandemic has put pressure on research communities to accelerate science discovery, contributing not only to the public health response, but also to sustain socio-economic recovery. We ought to, as South Africa, wish the participants in this conference well, but also we want to ensure that we secure the future of the Belém Statement Partnership through activity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Yona. If everyone can remember that initial video that we played about the energy in South Africa, I think Yona's contribution there is an illustration of that. And he says we need to go beyond policy statements, and he will illustrate. This will be illustrated tomorrow. I can't wait. And he also says, which is important, what happens on this spot in the south of the ocean impacts what happens on another spot in the northern region of the ocean. And I think with that, I will welcome our next speaker, Maria Zaira Turchi. She is the Director of Institutional Cooperation for the National Council for Scientific and Technological Development, CNPq, in Brazil. Over to you, Maria. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dear partners, dear colleagues, I'm very glad to participate once more in this special moment, which is the All-Atlantic Forum, representing Brazil in this discussion among strategic partners. It is remarkable to note that despite the pandemic times we are going through, our all-Atlantic cooperation has advanced with mutual efforts and creativity since the past forum held in Brussels, the past February. The Atlantic is the second largest ocean on Earth, and for centuries has been a key avenue of international trade. It baths the largest number of countries, providing invaluable resources and environmental services. Despite the importance of the ocean in numerous aspects of our lives, many ecosystems and species in the Atlantic are suffering from impacts generated by unsustainable exploitation, pollution deriving from various sources, all multiplied by the effects of climate change. In this scenario, the All-Atlantic Ocean Research Alliance aims to cooperatively develop the best science with a paradigm shift towards the construction of a systemic, holistic, egalitarian, and socially oriented approach to deliver solutions. These responses tackle the wide range of impacts that humankind has been causing in the Atlantic, and they aim to finally achieve sustainable development, so as a healthy and resilient ocean from the Arctic to Atlantica. Science, technology, and innovation policies in Brazil take into account the United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, and our national plans and actions are guided by its priorities in order to achieve the 17 SDGs. The action plans we have, based on our national strategy on science and technology, are fully aligned with the SDGs. And this is also confirmed by the fact that Brazil is actively involved in the preparatory phase of United Nations Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development, 2021-2030. The Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation, through its Science at Sea program, supports all the areas considered as priority under the Belém Statement. We invest on ocean observations, risk and pollution management, as in the case of the enormous oil spill occurred in 2019, so as in research infrastructure, coastal, oceanic, and Antarctic research. Our funding agents, such as CNPq, FINEP, and CONFAP, both at federal and state level, support on a continuous basis numerous actions and calls which contribute to ocean themes, as for instance, our current participation to the European Green Deal call, among others. Capacity development, technology transfer towards blue growth, data sharing based on fair and care principles, ocean literacy and awareness, and ocean research infrastructures are core areas of the All-Atlantic Alliance, which can cooperatively help Brazil and all Atlantic countries to deliver scientifically based and efficient solutions. This in the overall effort of achieving a sustainable development, which may be inspired and strengthened by the numerous resources and ecological services at the same time protecting the ocean, which sustain us all. Science plays a crucial role in strengthening international cooperation and vice versa. Current global challenges do not recognize geopolitical boundaries and do not encourage isolated solutions. This is the case of the ocean, climate change, or in the pandemic we are now all facing. Together, in all the Atlantic Ocean Research Alliance, we can do more and work better. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Maria. And I definitely agree with you there. There's definitely no space for isolated solutions. The collaborative efforts are definitely what we need and what is being illustrated by this forum today. And amongst other things, the approaches that you say we need to take towards developing these solutions is more systemic, more holistic, and more socially conscious. And I like that. Social consciousness is coming up a lot, and social impacts is coming up a lot today. And it tells me that we are all aligned in the mission to protect and develop socioeconomic value out of the ocean. Thank you very much, Maria. I will move right along to receive the remarks by Craig Mclean, who is the Assistant Administrator for Oceanic and Atmospheric Research at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration in the United States of America. Over to you, Craig. Sorry.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Good day to everyone. And I would like to thank our hosts, the Government of South Africa and the European Commission, for providing us with this opportunity. The All-Atlantic is a very important opportunity for all of us, and I think we are all rather comfortable with the direction that we're heading in. But the question is, how could we go farther? How could we go faster? How could we be more inclusive? And how could we really engage in true co-design? And I think the number of nations that are currently available to participate grows every year, and that's absolutely exciting. We began this day with a presentation, a very appropriate presentation that Thulule offered to us, reminding us of COVID and the world that we find ourselves in right now. It seems like in some ways just yesterday, but in other ways a long time ago, that we were gathered together in Brussels for the most recent meeting of this forum. And it's been a very strange new world that's evolved around us. But I just ask you, in considering the impact of COVID, which is how our conversation started, and what we do about it, let me travel back a good distance of time, but I think we all know and understand the history. Mid-century, last century, there was the ending of a terrible situation of a global war. And from that global war, we had the choice as a collection of nations to bask ourselves in desolation over the circumstance we inherited, or to find great optimism and come through it much stronger. And fortunately, we did come through much stronger by taking the technologies that were developed for that mid-century war and applying those to scientific research, to inquiry, and produce intellect, and produce economic prosperity from that intellect. We weren't very mindful of what the byproducts of that activity were. And those byproducts today are choking us in the atmosphere and polluting us in the water. And if we can evolve to the circular kind of economy that we all might identify with ambition, we'll be in a much better place. But we can't do that alone with science. But it has to start with science. So if I go back to the history, I think the United States can express its pride in our current involvement in activities that are in both North and South Atlantic Oceans, and started with that post-war technology application. We began programs, invited others to join, and other nations did in fact join. And today we have the wonderful experience of the Argo program, including new advances from the United States, and we welcome others to join in deep Argo and biogeochemical Argo. We have the Parada mooring that we share with Brazil and France, which really gives us insight to the tropical Atlantic and approaches to the western side of the Atlantic meridional overturning circulation, and South Atlantic meridional overturning circulation, or the SAMBA. CLIBAR, as a global oceanographic program, we're very much a sponsor of, and in many cases helped to create that, but joined once again by many nations that helped make it a global engagement. And in fact, it was a CLIBAR cruise that most recently our largest ship, the Ronald H. Brown, had departed from South Africa, a nation which provided great hospitality and academic collaboration with us in that Clybar cruise, right as things were closing down for the COVID seclusion that we all came under. So it's very important that we continue this pathway. The United States is proud of the direction that we have established, proud to be in partnership with many nations in carrying this forward, as expressed by the more formal Galway statement. And we look forward to Belém, and we look forward to continuing participation in the All-Atlantic. But let me just offer one thing. As we were gathering to discuss the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development, which, by the way, is a marvelous opportunity for the All-Atlantic team to consider what will our contribution be to the UN Decade as a united group with co-designed projects. But as we were gathering, one of our members of the executive planning group offered a more of a casual statement, and it was designed to be rather witty, and I think it was. But the question was, what additional science do we really need to do? We know enough now about what we need to do. Let's just do it. Basically, recruiting and calling for societal resilience to face the truths and the discomfort of transition to new ways of doing business. But of course, that was somewhat a comment in jest. We do need new science. We do need science that informs us. But I go back to that comment. We do know a lot right now. And what we're not effective at doing as a science community is conveying that to the social community. And therefore, Talilu, I will go back to the comment that you've been reprising with each speaker. We need the social science, the behavioral science, the social psychology to understand how to reach those people in our society, change behaviors, and be able to generate a much healthier world, a much better and future world that we could be proud of for our grandchildren. Because right now, I'm embarrassed by what we're leaving them. We have to do better. And I think the All-Atlantic Forum is a way to compile solutions. I think the UN Decade is a marvelous tool to bring ocean-based visibility and awareness to the components of our society that aren't ocean-minded currently, but on a daily basis inure the benefits of the ocean ecosystem and the benefits of our ocean observations and forecasts. So I think we have an opportunity here. And as all of you know, I believe, that the United States is approaching a transition to national leadership. I'm not in a position to offer any remarks as to where those additional policies or new policies might come from, but I certainly promise you that we as career government officials are very focused on what lies ahead, and we look forward to continuing our leadership and our investment and our provision of opportunities through all of the scientific programs that we are currently hosting and those beyond. And one I'll just mention is the most recent circumnavigation of the Antarctic continent by a completely autonomous vehicle, which basically redefined the carbon flux of Antarctica. So using new tools is something we need to be focused on as well. New tools, new methods, new opportunities through co-design as we apply them to existing and new programs. So I thank you for your time and your attention, and I look forward to the remainder of the comments from our colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Craig. I think if I had to sum up, if I was asked, give one word after Craig, what would you say? And I would say co-design. It's co-designing to respond as the All-Atlantic Oceans Alliance and Forum to the UN Decade. And that's the opportunity that you highlight and present here, using new technologies, new methods in ways that are going to convey the science to the people. But also, I think you challenge us a little bit there, Craig, when you speak about the decisions that were made after the war and how those decisions affect us today, and bringing to the fore really the importance of decisions being made today, having a visionary and forward-looking approach. But thank you very much. Certainly, co-design is my new favorite word, Craig. Thank you. Going to move on to Aran McPherson. She is the Assistant Deputy Minister for Fisheries and Oceans in Canada. Thank you, Aran.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. On behalf of the Canadians in attendance, it's really our pleasure to be participating in this All-Atlantic Ocean Research Forum. I'd like to start by thanking our hosts, the Republic of South Africa, the European Commission, and for bringing us together for this really valuable discussion. While we're not able to meet in person this year, I want to congratulate the organizers in this event for a very excellent opportunity to engage. The COVID pandemic has certainly impacted all of us in a significant way, changing the way we live our lives and how we work, while at the same time reinforcing the value of scientific collaboration internationally. And so I'm really pleased to be joining this group over the next 2 days to learn more about the initiatives that are already underway along the Atlantic Ocean and to identify the potential for additional collaborations. Over 7 million Canadians live in coastal communities who are dependent on the ocean, which is home to some of the most diverse ecosystems in the world and to valuable and vulnerable species and habitats. Protecting ocean resources is a priority for Canada, not only for today, but for generations to come. And as others have already noted in today's discussion, the best possible science is the necessary foundation for a blue economy, which puts the stewardship of our oceans at the forefront. And so you've already heard from Kendra McDonald, the CEO of Canada's Ocean Supercluster, which is focused on growing the ocean economy while developing innovative solutions to shared ocean challenges. As Kendra mentioned, and aligned with our domestic efforts, is our Prime Minister's membership on the high-level panel for a sustainable oceans economy. Canada is proud to be working with its international partners on this important initiative to support a productive global ocean economy that is underpinned by science. In fact, our national launch event for the Ocean Panel's Transformations document is taking place today in cooperation with our colleagues at the Ocean Frontier Institute, a transnational hub for ocean research in the North Atlantic. It'll feature Canada's Minister of Fisheries and Oceans and the Canadian Coast Guard, the Honourable Bernadette Jordan. So we're committed to science efforts that support sustainable ocean practices like the upcoming UN Decade for Ocean Science for Sustainable Development, and view the Ocean Decade as an essential effort to helping to achieve Agenda 2030 and to ensuring a healthy and productive ocean for future generations. Data stewardship and data sharing is and will continue to be an important component of this challenge for all of us. For example, Canada is a proud contributor to Seabed 2030, and the Canadian Hydrographic Service has recently released its non-navigational bathymetric dataset, NONA 10, which is a significant accomplishment in improving open accessibility to bathymetric data for the world. NONA 10 provides a wealth of information about the nature of Canada's seafloor, its depth, and other underwater features. The extremely valuable partnerships established under the Galway Statement on Atlantic Ocean Cooperation and in the All-Atlantic Ocean Research Alliance will be important vehicles for continuing to advance this work and provide us with an opportunity to deepen the collaborative efforts to tackle the range of challenges facing our oceans. We all bring different perspectives to these discussions, and as we've heard emphasized a few times already today, it'll be important to continue to try to broaden the range of voices and knowledge systems contributing to find and implement solutions to the increasingly complex issues we're all facing. The next cohort of the All-Atlantic Ocean Youth Ambassadors will be announced very soon, and Canada is really pleased to be able to take part in this effort. So a special thank you to our colleagues at the European Commission, JPI Oceans, and the other partners for leading the coordination of this incredible initiative. Events like this one are helping to continue to strengthen our science collaborations throughout the Atlantic Ocean community. And so I look forward to the exchange of ideas in our discussions today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Aran, for that in-depth, it was actually a really short space of time, but you were able to tell us so much about what you guys are up to there in Canada. And it all sounds really compelling and really highlighting the different perspectives, and the need for different perspective and the need for different voices is a major one, and it's coming through throughout the forum. And I imagine that different voices and different perspectives are going to come up again tomorrow. And as you say, we all look forward to learning from each other, growing from each other towards achieving the 2030 goals. And with that, next up, I can see Karina Pombo has already got her video on. Hi, Karina. Karina is the National Director for the Promotion of Science Policy in charge of Scientific International Cooperation at the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation in Argentina. Take it away, Karina. Thank you.
Thank you, Tul. Nice to meet you. It's a pleasure for me to stay here. I'm here on behalf of Doctora Carolina Vera, Chief of Cabinet of our Ministry of Science. She had a last-minute problem with her agenda and couldn't be present in this meeting. Sorry for that. Well, dear colleagues, it's an honor for me to participate in this forum. I would like to thank the organizers of the event. On this occasion, I would like to share with you the vision and experience of Argentina regarding marine research. United Nations have launched the Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development from 2021 to 2030. One of the main challenges for marine research is to promote transformative solutions in ocean science for sustainable development, connecting people and the ocean. This can be achieved through improving international cooperation, including South-South and triangular cooperation in marine research and innovation, and raising the quality of knowledge for its application for sustainability. The Argentine Republic is committed to promoting international cooperation and activities of scientific marine research in order to generate update and relevant scientific information, which will in turn be the basis for the design and implementation of public policies in the sector. Argentina, through the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation, is an active partner in the All-Atlantic Cooperation for Ocean Research and Innovation project. The Pampa Azul initiative was launched in 2014 in order to integrate state-driven scientific technological actions in relation to Argentina's maritime spaces. It's a cross-cutting and multidisciplinary project which coordinates activities of several ministries. Relaunched this year with strengthened budget in development, Pampa Azul aims to promote scientific research, technological development and innovation to preserve and efficiently manage marine resources, which is one of the ways Argentina exercises to sovereignty over our waters and continental shelf. Pampa Azul initiative also seeks to promote technological innovation that contribute to the strengthening of industries linked to the sea and the economic development of the Argentina maritime and coastal regions, as well as to promote greater awareness in the Argentina society about its maritime heritage and the responsible use of its vast resources. The main objectives of Pampa Azul are the following: strengthening the capacities of the scientific technological system to contribute to public policies related to the sea. Some actions, for example, general refitting of ships and expansion of the fleet for research and development, increasing the number of marine research campaigns, reinforcing and expanding maritime observation and monitoring systems, strengthening the national marine data system, strengthening interinstitutional capacities for research, development, and innovation with a federal perspective through creation of interinstitutional centers and call for research, development, and innovation projects with an interinstitutional and federal perspective. The third one is moving forward the agenda of strategic issues that contribute to reaffirmation of our sovereignty and national security, social, economic, and environmental sustainable development with a focus on technological innovation, social inclusion, protection of natural marine goods, integration of marine and coastal environment, gender perspective. 5 priorities: geographical area, have been selected under Pampa Azul on the basis of their oceanographic characteristics, the importance of their ecosystems, and the potential impact of human activities. Barkwood Bank, Namuncurá Marine Protected Area, Continental Slope Front, Blue Hole, San Jorge Gulf, Antarctic Island, South Georgia and South Sandwich Island, and River System of Rio de la Plata. Regarding international cooperation, several projects and activities are linked to Pampa Azul initiative. SAMOC project, for example, South Atlantic and Meridional Overturning Circulation. The main objective of SAMOC are to measure the strength and variability of the MOC, as well as the meridional heat and freshwater transport in the South Atlantic, all of which are crucial to improving our understanding of climate system variability. Argentina, Brazil, United States, France, and South Africa are participants in this project. The other is, for example, project strengthening capacities in marine and coastal environment using nuclear and isotopic techniques. Different countries in Latin America and the Caribbean are participating. Its aim is to study the acidification of the oceans, harmful algal blooms, microplastic, and eutrophication in coastal and marine systems in the region, contributing to compliance with the SDG, in particular SDG 14, through the use of nuclear and isotopic techniques. The last one is the joint scientific research campaign in the Beagle Channel. Argentina and Chile organized a joint scientific research campaign in November 2019 with the objective to investigate the effect of climate change in the channels, water, and the marine living reserves of the South Atlantic in order to develop specific measures and action to mitigate and adapt to the effect of climate change in the area. Finally, the action implemented by the Ministry of Science, Technology, and Innovation in Argentina are closely linked to the SDG 14 related to conserve and sustainably use the ocean, seas, and marine reserves for sustainable development. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Karina, for all of that detail. There's quite a lot going on in Argentina, and thank you so much for sharing that with us. I particularly found it interesting that you said that there's a forum that's been put together that coordinates the collaboration of different ministries towards ocean research. And I think that's really commendable, because a lot of the time, ministries do tend to isolate each other and work in silos. So I did note that, and I thought that was really cool of Argentina to coordinate efforts within different ministries. Thank you so much, Karina, for your contribution. And lastly, or rather the last speaker of the All Atlantic Partners, and that's going to provide us with remarks, is John Bell. And John Bell is the Director for Healthy Planets. He's the DG for Research and Innovation at the European Commission. Thank you. Over to you, John Bell.
Hi, Jalila. Can you hear me?
Perfectly.
You've done a fantastic job. So we're looking forward to getting it done together in South Africa. So,
thank you.
Yona, who is always very good at looking after us, always gives us a lovely send-off. So I'd like to thank my partners in South Africa and all my partners around the Atlantic Ocean. In your own words, Yona, Suni Bonani Bangani, Imini Anandi Zilobo Guyamida Grinda. And also to Karina, buenas tardes, to Maria, boa tarde, to Aran, bon après-midi, to Craig, good afternoon, and to all my friends in the Galway area, Díomh Goléir a Cordia. So here we are. a pandemic couldn't stop us from sticking together and bringing science, research, innovation to the table in this, our great transition towards a healthy planet. So we have a huge amount of optimism to offer to Joseph Duda and his generation, who one day will be sitting here in our place talking about whether we'd actually matched and responded to the challenge of handing over an ocean that's in better shape than ever at the end of this process. Our Atlantic research community shows that we are moving from 2020 kind of talk about the beginning of the end to 2030 kind of action about the end of the beginning. We're moving out into recovery, restoration, and regeneration. And science must light our pathway to a sustainable future for the oceans. This, our Blue Enlightenment, that was launched at Belém, that was defined in Salvador, that was unleashed in Brussels, and that is being developed and deepened here in South Africa, is underway. And history, as Craig has mentioned, is a good guide. And I think in South Africa, do these words mean more than anywhere else? We have a choice, as we say in Ireland in history, to be endured or to write it. And that's what we're doing here today. It's time that science took up the pen in terms of moving from the situation we find ourselves in today, this grim period in human history we're living through today, to do something with it to improve the future. And looking at history, we see that when we started this journey at the Atlantic Ocean Research Cooperation in 2013, with the signing of the Galway Agreement, when Commissioner Gagan Quinn pointed out that the signing was not the end of the process, it was in fact a new beginning, and that this form of globalization can connect us more closely, with the oceans no longer regarded as a blue divide, but rather as a rich, fertile, unifying force between us. Our forum is testament to how far we've come, how far this has moved from being a kind of globalization, in fact, to be a kind of a shared planetization. We're moving to bring together the communities of researchers and scientists, of generations of innovators, from pole to pole, from coast to coast. And over the course of the forum, we'll take stock of what we've achieved together until now, and that this new era of Blue Enlightenment that we talked about in Belém is there to show us the way together, to seize the opportunities and to address the common challenges facing this, our common ocean. And also a point I'd like to make, it's not just about science or the ocean. It is, as our colleagues have said repeatedly in earlier sessions, it's about the communities, the people who depend on it in a completely new context. And it's quite a different context, I guess, from when we met in Brussels in February. Yoni, you said we're moving beyond pronouncements. So the European Union, I think, is starting to learn and understand what the word pakisa means. We need to hurry up. And so the European Union has started, as we said in February, to change its direction. The European Green Deal, which is not just a priority or a policy, it's about what the European Union is for the next 30 years. The overarching goal, the function of the European Union, is to move towards a climate neutral continent, working within planetary boundaries, and with anybody else who'll work with us by 2050. And that Green Deal is not just about a package of measures. There is a roadmap of action. There is a setting out of a vision on how we can achieve these environmental, social, and economic transformations to bring a greener, cleaner, and fairer Europe now and for future generations, and try and ensuring that in this transition, we don't leave anybody behind. Now, this sounds like fine language, but to give you an example, what the European Union is doing, and this is what we do, we are all these faceless bureaucrats that we all know. We're busy making sure that every sinew and muscle, every item of our ability and capacity will be dedicated to this for the next 30 years. And so whether you're talking about laws or research or funding or markets or currencies or investment, we're doing that. And yesterday, the European Commission adopted a new EU-US agenda for global change. Just to give you a small example, apparently there's some reason for doing that at the moment on the other side of the Atlantic. And in that, this is just one example of how we set out one of our key transatlantic relations. It sets out at the center the need to set up ocean protection is at the center. One of the major actions that is there, that we need to work together to produce a global plastics treaty, and to designate maritime protected areas in the Southern Ocean so that we get our 30% of protection that we need. And that's an example of how in every communication that we have, we're putting this transition front and center. Very hopeful, I think, for all of us in this process. We're changing our laws to be fit for 55% reductions in 2030. There's a climate pact to mobilize our society. There's a huge movement in terms of biodiversity, the reform of our food systems, the building of a circular economy at every level. And in response to this dreadful pandemic, where again, we must all stick together as we roll out the treatments and the vaccines and make sure that everybody has access to what they need. There's a big wall of investment in what's called Next Generation European Union, a recovery and resilience facility, and a just transition fund. And this will be used to drive forward these green and digital transitions to power a renovation wave across Europe and with our neighborhoods. So it is a moment of great difficulty, but a moment of great hope, and a moment in the European Union, at least, where we see our responsibilities to our own citizens, but to our neighbors and partners around to help in making this transformation happen. So where does research and innovation fit into all of this? We use language like research and innovation as an enabler of the European Green Deal transitions across all of these major work streams. And we're working, for example, with representatives from all our European member states to set up a future co-fund action called a climate neutral, sustainable, productive blue economy. That's very specific. But in general, we're at a moment of transition where science has to shift from being observer to actor, from evidence provider to that which provides prediction, and from research to policy. As Jonas said at the beginning, from pronouncement to direction and action. We need the science to light the way through the 21st century by demonstrating, piloting, and scaling up approaches and solutions and making them available to those who are most affected by the changes that are happening. And nowhere is this clearer than where we're having this conversation today. So in short, research and innovation needs to step up. It needs to turn on the lights, the pathway to a climate sustainable future. And our blue enlightenment is what we're talking about in these days, is a way of doing that and turning the lights on for and with the ocean. In practice, what are we doing about it? We launched European Green Deal. Marie, you mentioned it, a Green Deal call under Horizon 2020 with a budget of €1 billion. This came out of the discussions we were having this time last year in the Arctic, actually, with the people there, with the local indigenous people. It's a major cross-cutting call that aims to kickstart urgent climate action in support of the Green Deal objectives and the recovery plan for Europe. And it targets 8 particular areas where there can be breakthroughs and a couple of areas where we can actually put in place the data, the analytics, the digital map of the ocean, the different things that can facilitate. It proposes a clear, impact-focused approach, supporting the development of these ideas into pilot applications, demonstration projects, innovative approaches, experiments, and so forth. It again, I was listening to Michael earlier on talking about what can be done to generate work in the economy, which is so important to what we're doing. And here, innovation is indeed the secret algorithm of this transition, and we need to nurture it and encourage it. So this Green Deal call is underway. Please have a look at it if you haven't. It closes on the 26th of January, and we would really like to work very closely with all of our partners in this. In parallel to that, we have our multi-annual budget decision taking place with our member states, and out of that will come the new framework program, Horizon Europe, the new framework program of the European Union Research and Innovation. We hope will be formally adopted in the coming weeks and launched in the first half of next year, is setting direction to serve these European Green Deal transitions. And it is seeking to work beyond and with and beyond the supporting of the normal array of science and innovation topics to drive these green and blue transitions. I mentioned the program co-fund, a climate neutral, sustainable and productive blue economy. Huge opportunity for all of you around the Atlantic to work together in partnership with public and investors. Because we believe in Europe that science is in the business of building bridges, not walls. In addition, there's a new development, which is a kind of a moonshot or what we, an Earth shot more likely, set of initiatives, 4 European Green Deal missions, which are proposed under Horizon Europe, fostering ambitious long-term research and innovation-driven disruptions to accelerate the transitions. One is around a climate resilient Europe, preparing Europe for climate disruptions and accelerate the transformation to climate resilient just Europe by 2030. That's about climate adaptation. Caring for soil is caring for life, restoring 75% of the soils in the European Union, 100 climate neutral cities by 2030, buy-in for citizens, and of course for the oceans, Mission Starfish 2030, restoring our ocean and waters. Now, all of these by definition will be open to our cooperation with our partners. Let me, for a moment, Francois Galgani spoke a little earlier about the Mission Oceans. Again, this is one for us all to look at. The Mission Board, Healthy Oceans, Seas, Coastal and Inland Waters, has proposed a holistic mission Starfish to restore our oceans and waters, what Pascal Lamy calls the hydrosphere, what connects us. In brief, it talks about addressing 5 objectives, which together will enable the restoration of the water cycle as a whole, filling the knowledge and emotional gaps of citizens vis-a-vis our ocean and waters, regenerating marine and water ecosystems through increased protection and active restoration. And that's everything from the investment in the water treatment systems to the restoration of rivers, zero pollution and decarbonizing our blue economy, and finally to creating an integrated and participatory system of ocean and water governance. So we warmly welcome the proposals, and we're now working to the advice on a detailed planning or blueprints, and you're all very much invited to engage in that process in the coming ones. So to conclude, the All-Atlantic Ocean Research Alliance is an ideal framework for rolling out the mission internationally and for mobilizing a community, not just of these wonderful youth ambassadors, but maybe bringing together some of the ocean elders too, to rewrite the history and the future of our ocean. It's a place where we hope to pilot concrete, game-changing solutions together with you, our international partners. And if I may add a phrase, having listened to our colleagues from across the ocean, to a phrase that we will hear a lot of in the next few days. We need science to enlighten our pathways, of course. So what we need when we talk in this context, we say we have to move towards the science that we need for the ocean that we want. And I would add, and it must be for the people that we serve. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, John, for all of those invitations. And I'm sure everybody is listening, and I'm sure this recording will become available so that we can all really dive into all of the opportunities that we're spoken about here. And then we can all engage with them further. Secondly, congratulations on your Zulu. I mean, that was incredible. I'm really, really impressed with that. But like your use of words. I love your use of words. You say the ocean we must treat like a rich, fertile, unifying force and not a great blue divide. And then you go on to say we need to move from being, where scientists need to move from being an observer, they need to move from observer to action. And I think that links in so nicely with what Kwan was saying earlier about post-normal science, where the scientists are engaged and they are practically involved in these solutions. And then lastly, of these beautifully crafted gems that you are dropping here, that innovation is the secret algorithm to job creation. Thank you very much, John. And that wraps up this segment of our proceedings for the day.